I want to preface this video by saying that everything I'm about to tell you is a rumor, but there's certain articles and certain people in this industry that are kind of lending some credibility to this rumor. And that rumor is that SOCOM is being made by Guerrilla Games. You guys know Guerrilla Games, obviously, from the Killzone franchise, as well as more recently Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, a lot of news is coming out lately about Horizon Zero Dawn 2 and how it's basically all but announced at this point, and everybody knows that it's coming out, and people are kind of speculating as to whether it's going to be a launch title for the PlayStation 5 or if it's going to come at a later date. Now, we do know for a fact that Guerrilla Games is working on multiple games. They have Horizon Zero Dawn, they have the team there, and they also have a team that, from what everybody knows, is working on a multiplayer-centric project. Back on April 11th, 2019, PlayStation Lifestyle broke the news that there was a new job listing on the Guerrilla Games website, and unfortunately I can't access that job listing anymore, but they break it down in the article here. I'm going to have all of this linked down below. Some key points in the listing: that the person required to build a robust backend that can scale up to serve many concurrent users. You will work on systems like matchmaking, tournaments, clans, and leaderboards. You will work on systems to test and deploy new server sets without downtime. And you will integrate the game servers with PlayStation Network and other third-party services. So we could look at that and say, well, maybe they're just bringing a multiplayer component to Horizon Zero Dawn 2. But if you look back to 2018, Guerrilla Games actually hired a few people that, when you look at their history and what they do in the industry, guys, I'm so giddy right now because this is probably the closest thing to a confirmation that we have had. So basically, looking back, Simon LaRoche, I think I'm pronouncing that right, LaRoche or LaRoche, he is now the game director at Guerrilla Games, one of their studios, and he is currently working on this unannounced project with Guerrilla Games. Now, if we look at his past history, he worked a lot with Ubisoft, specifically on Rainbow Six Patriots, which we covered the other day on the channel. He also worked on Splinter Cell Blacklist, and he actually worked on Rainbow Six Siege. Now, the one that I'm looking at here specifically is the fact that he worked on Rainbow Six Patriots, which, if you guys watched my video from the other day, you know that the creative director of Rainbow Six Patriots, before it got canned, was David Troy Sears, who happened to be the creative director at Zipper Interactive. Now, you could say, yeah, I mean, they worked on the same game, sure, not a problem. When we look at who else that Guerrilla Games has hired for this unannounced project, we come across a person named Chris Lee, who now, according to his LinkedIn, is the principal game designer at Guerrilla Games. And you might ask, well, who is Chris Lee? Looking back at his profile, you will see that Chris worked at a company called Slant 6 Games. And if you're a SOCOM fan, you know who Slant 6 Games is. They were very short-lived. They were actually a Canadian studio back in from like 2006 to like 2012, and they worked on SOCOM Fireteam Bravo 3 for the PSP, but most importantly, they worked on SOCOM Confrontation. Chris Lee happened to be a level designer on SOCOM Confrontation, which is the biggest connection that I have seen between all of these people. You look at his profile from 2012 to 2015, Chris actually worked as a multiplayer designer on Rainbow Six Siege, and it also says that he worked with creative directors to translate the vision into gameplay prototype designs. Now, my guess is that's where Chris and Simon met, and chances are all of them worked alongside David Sears, who we know was the original creative director of the SOCOM franchise. And when Chris worked as a game designer, as a level designer at Slant 6 Games, we know that he worked with Seth Luisi as well, who was also one of the original production guys on the original SOCOM franchise. So there's a lot of connections between where these people have worked, who they've worked with, and what they've worked on. Now, the reason I'm stumbling across all of this is because I got a comment on my Instagram post from this morning. Literally this morning, somebody asked if they had heard about the rumor that Guerrilla Games is working on a SOCOM project. And when I Google it, I literally went to Google and I typed Guerrilla Games SOCOM. And what I find is an article from comicbook.com. This was posted one day ago. Today is the 10th. I'm sorry, it was posted on the 8th. 2 days ago. And in this post, you scroll down and you see that there's a lot of rumors suggesting we may see the likes of Demon's Souls remakes, new Gran Turismos, a new SOCOM, and much more during the launch of the PlayStation 5. And I started scrolling down and they're talking about Horizon Zero Dawn 2. And then I get to this paragraph here and I'm going to read the entire thing verbatim. That said, I have heard that Guerrilla's other game will be ready at launch, the one it recruited Tom Clancy Rainbow Six Siege developers for. Now, I've seen many suggesting that this is a new Killzone, but I've heard that this is actually a reboot of SOCOM. And all of this takes me to a video from somebody named Jor Raptor. I'm going to have his link down below. In his video, Horizon Zero Dawn 2 trailer coming soon, he actually discusses the other project going on at Guerrilla Games, and he brings up something that Colin Moriarty on his podcast, Sacred Symbols, said about the other Guerrilla Games multiplayer project, in which he heard that it's a third-person, team-based shooter, and I guess later on in the podcast, Colin then speculates that it is a SOCOM title.
Ex-IGNer and kinda funny co-founder Colin Moriarty says on his PlayStation podcast, Sacred Symbols, that he heard that the game is a third-person game, just like Horizon, and then later he speculates about this being a new SOCOM game.
And what's crazy is all of this actually lines up with a video I did on the very first day of 2019. We had an industry insider, a guy who was known for leaking multiple things around the industry, a guy by the name of Tidux. He actually posted January 1st, 2019, that the latest rumor, PlayStation are in early stage of developing the next SOCOM game. I made a video on it, and back then we had absolutely no information, but if we look at the timeline, and we see that Guerrilla Games hires Simon LaRoche at some point in 2018, and then in October, they actually bring on Chris Lee, and then November, December, and then in January, we get the rumor that they are in the early stages of developing a SOCOM game, and then in April, we find out that they're actually hiring more people for the project, which if it's going to be a launch title, that means they started pre-production in sometime in 2018, which gives them 2018, 2019, and then all of 2020 as the consoles are going to be launching in the last part of 2020. That gives them about 3 years of dev time for a possible multiplayer-only SOCOM project. That lines up. But obviously the elephant in the room is Halo Infinite, the fact that it is coming out as a launch title for the new Xbox, and Sony has said that they do want to start moving into the multiplayer space a little bit more than they have in the last generation. So for the PS5, it's not necessarily a focus for them, but they do want to make more strides in the multiplayer space moving forward. Now, the last time we saw Killzone was obviously the launch of the PS4, and it was pretty much a colossal failure in terms of that game itself. It had a very forgettable multiplayer. It had a very lackluster single player experience, and to me, Killzone just hasn't been the same since Killzone 2. In my opinion, I think Killzone 2 was the peak of that, and everything else after that was trying to recapture that magic, and to me, it just never succeeded. Which is actually really funny because that is the exact same story with the SOCOM franchise. 2 was the peak, and everything after that, 3, Confrontation, 4, Combined Assault, all of those games tried to do something that the original 2 didn't, and they lost their asses, and that essentially just caused Sony to shelve the franchise. But if you're Sony and you're looking at the launch titles and you're going up against the Xbox, because even though Xbox has the PC marketplace and they're going to be doing like the simultaneous launch on both, you're still competing for consoles. Does Sony invest in an online-only multiplayer game like Killzone, or do they try their hand at bringing back a beloved franchise like SOCOM? Now, even though Shuhei isn't in his position anymore, he did come out and say that he knows that the SOCOM fans want multiplayer, and they wouldn't really feel invested in remastering the single-player campaigns because they know that that's not what we want. And he's right. He's absolutely right. We made a big splash on social media in 2015 where we tried to show Sony and PlayStation that we want a goddamn SOCOM game. And we showed that there's a lot of people out there that are willing to purchase a SOCOM title. We had the top of the hashtags that they were doing for building the list, for getting remasters done. We had PlayStation groups. I think we had 2 that had 10,000 players in it each. Like, we were blowing it up way more than all of these other titles like Crash Bandicoot and Spyro and Medieval. But yet they got the love and SOCOM never did. But maybe, just maybe, they have put a team together at Guerrilla Games that could make this happen. To me, when I think about it logically, just as a gamer, now I'm giving you guys my opinion on everything. Why would Guerrilla Games need to hire people who worked on Rainbow Six? Guerrilla Games is known, I mean, yeah, they're known for Horizon, but they are known for the Killzone franchise. Why would they need somebody with that more tactical gamer experience? That Rainbow Six style military team-based shooter experience. It doesn't make sense unless you were trying to create something in that space, which could be a SOCOM game. I don't know. I am very anxious to hear about what this is going to be. We've heard rumors for a while that Sony has been looking into rebooting or restarting or doing something with the SOCOM franchise, and this might be it. They have the people in place to do it. I personally think if they're trying to compete with Halo, or at least trying to do something to lure the multiplayer crowd to PlayStation at launch, Killzone isn't the game for it. Nobody thinks back to Killzone, and they don't think, wow, Killzone's multiplayer was fucking phenomenal, dude. Dude, the last 2 Killzones were great. Everybody remembers SOCOM. Even though SOCOM 4 was trash, SOCOM Confrontation, once they got all the bugs worked out, was an incredible multiplayer experience, and it was cheaper. It was a great component to PlayStation Network, and if I recall correctly, it was one of the highest played games in terms of player numbers on the PlayStation Network. And I want to say either it launched in 2008, so I think it was 2009 is when it took that title. It was one of the highest played games, and maybe they're looking at that and, hey, we need something to at least entice people to choose PlayStation over Xbox with Halo. Do we do SOCOM? Do we do Killzone? Or do we do something completely different that nobody is even expecting? Again, this is all speculation, but I am excited to see certain names in positions at Guerrilla Games, and I'm excited to hear these rumors because this is probably the closest to a SOCOM game that we're ever going to get. Even if it's not even SOCOM, the fact is we have people who worked in key roles at Slant 6 Games working on this game. It's exciting to me. I'm excited to hear what they have in store, and I'm sure we're going to hear about it very soon. If history is to be repeated, I think we're going to hear about the PlayStation 5 starting in either February or March. I believe that's what they did with the PS4, and then the console is launching in late 2020. So I'm hoping that we hear something from Guerrilla Games in terms of this launch title during the PlayStation 5 announcement. Let me know what you guys think down below. This is a weird speculative video, but I had a comment on my Instagram, and I just wanted to kind of follow through, look around, see what he's seeing, see what everyone else is talking about, and this excites me. I'm not gonna lie to you, when I clicked on Chris Lee, I instantaneously knew his name, because I mean, I remember looking up people who worked on the maps of Slant 6, of SOCOM Confrontation, playing like Casbah, Urban Wasteland, Quarantine, even though Quarantine was kind of a trash map. Fallen. That's my childhood, man. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you guys enjoy the video, hit that like button. And if you are subscribed to the channel, make sure you either tap that bell or follow me over on Zing. It's a brand new app that a bunch of YouTubers are using to bypass YouTube's terrible notification system. Download it, follow me, and then just forget about it. You just get notified on your mobile phone as soon as I upload a video. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.